Hey folks, this is Dustin from Ridgeline Aquatics. Today I am super excited because I am finally jumping on the hype train. Where is this train headed? To Reef Vase Central. I've been interested in reef vases for a while now and they absolutely intrigue me. The Maritza Reef Vase of Mary Arroyo and the various Pico aquariums of Brandon Mason, who's Brandon429 of YouTube and a couple of forums, have really inspired me over the last couple of years, and I'm finally jumping in. Gotten the courage to try this on my own. So wish me luck. Reef vases are designed with simplicity in mind. Absent are all the complicated technologies that we've come to associate with reefing. Auto top-offs, wave makers, auto dosing pumps, reef controllers do not come to play when designing a reef vase. In their place, we use simple technologies. To provide water flow, a simple air pump or a small water pump provides more than enough water flow for such a small reef vase. An inexpensive light fixture provides all the light you need for such a small aquarium. Many people even omit using a heater. However, I will be using one because my house temperature tends to be a little on the colder side. When I first decided to start a reef vase style tank, I planned on using a cheap, easily available cookie jar. However, after purchase, I started having doubts. The glass isn't very clear, and I wanted a bowl-style tank, both for aesthetics, but also for the slight magnifying effect that curved glass creates. I found this bowl on Amazon. A link should be in the description below. While the glass is not 100% perfect, it is by far the best I've been able to find. These bowls are hand-blown, and thus do not have the long seam found in many glass objects, which is definitely a plus. I used silicone to bond a 3/8 inch tubing around the top of the bowl. My hope is that this will create a better seal between the bowl and the lid, and also provide a cushion between the pieces of glass. I left a gap for cords and airline tubing to pass through. For a lid, I picked up what was sold as a candle holder at a craft store. I have never been very good with aesthetics, but I like the doubled curved glass look here. The bottom is minimally curved downward, so any condensation should drip back into the bowl. It also should not distort the light too awfully much. I built a simple pedestal to house my reef vase. I included a rotating bearing that will enable me to spin the vase for ease of viewing and cleaning. A black panel on the back of the pedestal will both eliminate distractions when viewing the reef vase, but also will serve as an anchor point for my light. Inside the tank, I'm adding about an inch or so of aragonite sand. I really love the look of sand, but find it quite problematic in normal reef tanks because it ends up constantly blowing around. In the vase, most of the water movement should be vertical, so hopefully that won't disturb the sand too much. I added brand new sand first, and then added a little bit of sand from an established reef tank on top to help seed beneficial bacteria and burrowing organisms. The sand bed I took this from is very clean, but I gave the sand a good rinsing to blow away any lingering detritus that may have accumulated. I am using cured dry rock for the majority of my rock structure, but I'm adding a few pieces of live rock to seed a bit of beneficial bacteria and coralline algae. I chose dry rock to help prevent pests like Aiptasia anemones and vermitid snails from hitchhiking in, although knowing my luck I've probably missed a few pieces on the live rock and will end up with them anyway. In a few weeks or months, it was all going to become live rocks, so it should be pretty good. In this small tank, I wanted to ensure that the rock work is solid and will not tip over or break apart easily. To support my rock structure, I drilled small holes in the rock and used white zip ties to bind the rocks together. Eventually, corals will grow and cover the ties from view and will further bind the rock together. I'm not the best aquascaper, but I like my design concept for this tank. I wanted to base my layout around the fact that I will be using an air stone to provide water flow. As such, I created a hollow chimney through which bubbles will flow, thus loosely imitating a geothermal vent, and making the bubbles a part of the rockscape and not a distraction from it. I realize you could make the very solid argument that a geothermal vent would not really have any corals growing on it, but that's okay. I'm interested to see how this affects water flow, so let's turn on the pump and see how it looks. I like it. Although, the ceramic aerostone produces bubbles over a very large area, so I might want to replace it with something smaller, or possibly just leave the tube open. I really like the look of the small bubbles, but we'll have to see how it goes. I'll probably experiment over the next several weeks and get back to you. Now let's talk about keeping this aquarium warm. Some folks don't use a heater, as I mentioned before. However, my office gets awfully cold during the winter time, and so I want to make sure that I keep the tank at a nice 78 degrees. For that, I'm going to be using this tiny Cobalt Aquatics mini therm. It's a 10-watt heater, and its only drawback is it doesn't have an internal thermostat, which is part of the reason why it's so small. To make sure that this comes on and turns off at the right time, I'll be using this Bayite temperature controller. I chose this because it has really good reviews, and it's a lot cheaper than using something that was designed specifically for a reef aquarium. Both the links probably should be popping up here about now, or I'll have them in the description below. The nice thing about the Bayite is that you can set the temperature to within 1/10 of a degree. And so if you want, you could have it kick on at 77.9 degrees and turn off at 80 degrees. Personally, I don't want my heater kicking on and off that often, so I set it to 77.5 to turn on and 80 degrees to turn off. And you know, with the temperature of my office, shouldn't be kicking off and on too often, although we'll have to experiment and maybe make adjustments as the time goes on. I'm really liking the small profile of this heater, and I think that with the curvature of the glass and its black color, I'm hoping that it just blends right into the background and we don't even notice it, but we'll have to find out. The last component I should probably talk about is lighting. My original thought when I set this up was to try out an ABI Par 38 bulb. I've heard a lot of really good things about them, and I even went so far as to buy one and hook it up. While the spread of the light is great for a reef vase, and the color looks nice, it's a little on the blue side, there is a lot of light bleed around the edges of the bulb, which is a little annoying and distracts from enjoying the vase. It also has an internal fan that makes a light buzzing noise, and since this is going to be sitting next to my work computer, that might be a little annoying. For now, I'm using a Kessel 80 that I have just kind of lying around. I want to try and prevent light bleed on the ABI and also do some in-vase par measurements in both light, and then I'll make my final decision. That's all for today. In the next episode, we'll be taking a look at different lighting options and also adding some coral to our vase. Hopefully you're as excited about this as I am. Until next time, be sure to check out our website at www.ridgelineaquatics.com. Happy reefing!